Welcome everybody to the Clean Finish Wrestling Podcast. My name is Nathan Sridharan. I'll be your host. This is a tough time for wrestling fans. You have that post-Mania hangover where things are kind of settling down after being so hyped up, and it's inevitably followed by that really crappy time where lots of wrestlers get released. I picked a difficult thing to remain positive about in terms of a sport that I absolutely love. I'm going to do my best. I will give you my honest opinions of what's going on, the fallout from WrestleMania, the recent releases, which absolutely sucks. There's definitely some positives in there, 100%, but there's also a lot of crap that's going on. So without further ado, let's talk about it. WrestleMania's finished, done and dusted. We are following on from the Raw after Mania. I'm a week out, but I'll just go for a quick review of the highlights for me for Raw after Mania. Obafemi opened the show with the promo that Roman should have had those many years ago about being the big dog now. Your conqueror has arrived. It was just perfection. What an incredible, just cherry on top of the incredible feat he achieved at WrestleMania. Like massive boost for him. We had some debuts. Ethan Page, I absolutely love that they called up Ethan Page already. He did phenomenal work in AEW. He's done phenomenal work in NXT, and I can already see him being an absolute one of the top stars in on Monday Night Raw. He gets the business. He's just perfect heel. It's going to be his run's going to be exceptional. We also had a tease of Joe Hendry coming, which we'll talk about shortly in a minute. So he's gonna turn up on Monday Night Raw. We got a nice little tease between a match that's been highly anticipated between Punk and Cody. What's next for Punk? It's quite clear that Punk and Cody are going to have some long-standing feud. And again, if they do it right, you can really kind of feed into the history. Again, the AEW connection, all that stuff, you really kind of feed into that and the respect they have for each other and the fact they're friends. But who wants to be the best? I think, yeah. And God, Cody looked awful. All of that, or his poor eye, and then Pat McAfee shithead is gone anyway. Like, yeah, what a joke. And speaking of the heavyweight title kind of contendership, we're getting more. LA Knight kind of teasing he's going to go after Roman. Already Obafemi over the post show at Mania teasing he's going to go after Roman, which is great. Gunter, there's a lot of contenders, but I always love, and that's when it feels so exciting with the championship kind of picture. There's so many contenders at the top, and I think we've got a lot of people. Obviously, we had Roman coming out, and then Jacob Fatu confronted him. There's that. I'm bloodline exhausted already, and I was many years ago when they were doing that whole thing for 4 years. I think a lot of people forget how bad it was. It was a lot of rinse and repeat, and there were obviously jewels in there, like Jay's kind of ascension, and then Sami Zayn obviously, and there were some great things, and the whole Cody thing, it built beautifully in the end, and there were lots of good elements to it. But there was so many times where it was just the most predictable thing ever, and what CM Punk was saying about the Usos kind of towing the line. They are, absolutely. They're right back where they were. You had main event Jey Uso, former champ, and he seems to be just renegated to sidekick again. Jimmy, who's got insane potential and is arguably the more charismatic and enthusiastic one of the Usos. It's just, again, they just become like, and it's just, you kind of get, they're not even in the tag division. They're not even going for the titles. Like, they're just Roman sidekicks again, and it's being treated a little bit like they're equal, but it's not. We know it's not. It's just, I don't know. I'll hold my breath on. I'll hold kind of too much criticism, but it can't for me go on long, and that's why I didn't want Roman to have the title in the first place. I don't want to see a lengthy title. There's no point. So yeah, we'll see with that. But the Jacob Fatu element is interesting. To have that different broken up dynamic, and obviously they go into it Raw as well. But yeah, I think overall it was a good Monday Night Raw. I think with these Raws after Mania, they haven't been as explosive as they once were, and I think that's okay. I think it just got to a point where everyone expected the highest of highs, and that is cool. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think the expectation is so high each time. It's not always going to deliver. So, all in all, it was a good show. We got some continuation of stories going on there. But yeah, I thought it was quite a solid show, and I'm looking forward to the new signees as well. So SmackDown after WrestleMania, start with the Jacob Fatu promo before he can even really get on. Usos kind of immediately come out, and again, as I was saying about them just being like Roman's lapdogs, they've instantly fallen into that role, and then to the point where I think Jimmy was like calling the fans fools, and they put Roman on his pedestal and all this other stuff. Like, do people really want to see that again? Like, I know people love Roman, but like, I don't know. I can just see the whole rinse and repeat of it, and I'm yeah, I'm struggling to get invested into that side of things. What I did love though after, and I've always been a big Solo fan, is the pop he got when he came out. And like again, it's not unexpected and it's really cool. Like, you've got this kind of bloodline, like it's just expanded again because there's so many of them. It's just got this, this huge thing. You've got the MFTs versus the bloodline thing. Like, I thought it was really great. And then even within that, you've got Tama and Solo having their kind of beef. Um, you know, Jacob, I think, kind of capped it off nicely, saying like, forget all this infighting and all this other stuff. All he cares, he shouldn't be talking to Jay, shouldn't be talking to Solo or anyone else. He should be talking to Roman. And I love that he's kind of fixating on where he wants to be, and that's in the championship. In the championship picture, he wants to upskill his life. He wants to do better things for himself and his family. Like, it all makes sense. Like, damn to your family is he wants to take that spot and he's ready for it. I think he will really shine in this feud more than anyone, I think. First match of the night on SmackDown was Tiffy versus Julia. Again, a lot of people question why Tiffy's getting the title shot since she lost not too long ago. There was a bit of dissension between Julia and Kiana. Again, it will work well if Julia comes out as a face. I think she'd be better as a face and get a lot of momentum behind her. She was incredible in this match, and she really showed out. I don't understand why they don't let her wrestle more like that. She's so good, and she's got that kind of aura around her already. So I was disappointed when her and Tiffy they put on a really great match. Even Julia did like really really cool reversals of the prettiest moonsault. It was all great. So I was a bit disappointed when Tiffy won, because I don't see what it gives her, because I think she needs a whole, not a character renewal as such, because her thing is great, but she needs more depth to her character. She's very much just on Tiffy time at the minute. She's become the catchphrase, and there's not much else there, and I think she needs that. I don't know what capacity, but she certainly needs something to get people more invested in her, some bit more personal stuff, or lean more into the bratty comedy spoilt girl thing. I don't know. I'm hoping what it does do is kind of boost Julia up the arse and kind of get her into position. Maybe she needs to ditch Kiana. I don't know, but I think this could be good for Julia. I'm hoping it will really kind of push her up there, and I pray that she doesn't just get forgotten about. Following the match, we had a couple of skits from The Miz and Danhausen. That was very funny stuff. I did love that. Danhausen's just become like this top guy. I think he was like one of the highest sellers over Mania or something mental. Like, he's just so naturally charismatic and funny. And partnering with The Miz is great as well. And we had that whole skit at his house, and then Maurice, like Maurice has got, again, I think Maurice gets underrated in that. She's got such great comedy timing when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And I think she just fits that role so perfectly. And then after that, we had uh, Brie Bella and Paige kind of come out. It makes me laugh so much. The contrast in Brie's music has got to be the worst goddamn music I've ever heard in my life as a wrestling. And some of these entrance themes are so generic, like 2K entrance theme type create a character music. Her music just drives me mad. And then the contrast with Paige, who's got a really great entrance song. The Paige did a lovely promo when she came. It was my house and all of her stuff. But it was just you could see how meaningful it was to her, and it's so great to have her back, because she was a kind of key member of the women's evolution. I just think she should get more credit than she does. They then, of course, quite swiftly interrupted by Charlexa, which is great. They had a challenge, and they kind of competed and had a little match. As things kind of escalated, we had JC Jane and the Fatal Influence, our first big surprise of the night, come. A huge JC Jane fan. I think she's phenomenal. She's got a great look. She, again, gets the business totally. She's got a great moveset, perfect on the mic. I think she's going to be such a force to reckon with within WWE. And it's so great that they brought her whole team. I did think that maybe they'd just bring her up, but they brought Fallon Henley and the other one I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, I just think, and the statement they made, and again, obviously they do something later as well, I thought was just absolutely perfect. We had a promo from Cody. We saw the champ return. Big, horrible gash on his eye. Again, Pat McAfee, you suck. And again, it's like a straight, it wasn't a little golden boy promo. I thought it was quite an intense and fiery promo from him, kind of taking shots at Orton and Sammy, wanting, kind of hinting at, I think middle fingers at TKO about he's not going to change and getting fed up with things. I don't know how scripted and all that stuff is, but making points to it because he's supposed to be the people's champion, so he needs to speak what we're seeing. And yes, we could be blabbering on in the IWC and all that stuff, but to say what we want. He's supposed to represent us. And I loved his little kind of finishing line: easy to find, hard to beat. Like, it was absolutely lovely, and he's just like exuding confidence. So I don't know where he's going to go next. I presume maybe Orton thing would carry on. We get like a Backlash thing. I'm guessing he's not cleared to wrestle right now with that eye. So we got a hint of Punk and him on Raw. So yeah, we'll see what goes on with that. But I imagine it'll be an Orton thing first. Maybe we'll get Punk, Cody at SummerSlam. Next match of the night was a tag team match: R-Truth and Damian Priest versus the MFTs. Wade Barrett had me dying because he wanted R-Truth to lose because R-Truth genuinely nicked his rental car, which I think is fair. I think it's fair that R-Truth, it seems very on brand with R-Truth and to nick it. So I'm very curious as to what Wade Barrett did. I hope R-Truth said he had some bad news first before he did it, but yeah, but Priest and Truth, yeah, with a big win against the MFTs. I think I do think it's a very fumbled together tag team, obviously, and I've got some, I don't know, controversial things to say about Truth in a minute in light of all the recent firings. But like they do work well together, considering they're both kind of older wrestlers. They work pretty damn well together. And again, the interesting part was around Tama, kind of more layers to him messing up and impacting the MFTs, despite him wanting to move on from all this other stuff. So that when that comes to head, that would be really good. Just interesting to see what happens with the MFTs after, because I could see certain people kind of fading away, unfortunately, when these groups, and that's the biggest problem with these big groups, is when they eventually do disband, you usually lose some of the kind of lesser prominent characters in that. Tongaloa comes to mind. But yeah, it's interesting to see how that's building up. Following that match, we had a lovely, lovely promo from Trick Willie. Little Yachty's seems to be here to stay, but from all accounts, it seems like he's not your typical celebrity wrestler. He seems to be like invested into it. So I mean, fair play to him. I can't fault him on that. The gingerbread man having a pimp stick, candy cane pimp stick, was like, oh, it was just excellent. It was so good, and I obviously knew it was going to be Sammy in there, but Sammy's got these mad moves that I just think is so funny. And Trick gave that producer like the smoothest bitch slap I've ever seen in my life. That was very funny. And then so basically Trick comes out in his promo. He says, I'm not doing the open challenge anymore, which I think is great. I think we can focus in on kind of his character's so developed and refined, he doesn't need it. With Mello, he was just the good wrestler. He was very good, but it wasn't defined as a character, which he does definitely have. So he's, Trick saying, I'm not doing the open challenge anymore. He's cementing his stance on the US title. Has a celebration. Sami Zayn inevitably comes out of the disguise, attacks Trick. He's really kind of embracing the heel role, but still high-fiving fans. He's in a very weird position because people still love him because he's Sami Zayn and all the great things he's done, but because he's against Trick, he's not going to get the cheers. It's never going to happen. He's just going to get booed out of the building. A lot of fans are kind of veering that way at the minute. They are very much booing the face and the heels, and it's the first time I've not understood why. Almost, I get it a bit with Sami, but not enough for him to get the booze he's getting. But that feud's going to continue, which I think is great. We may see a full Sami heel turn again. He's great in that role. We've seen many times before, so I don't think it would hurt either way. Kind of which route he goes down. One of the other big surprises we got, which I'm very excited for. So obviously we had JC Jane and Fatal Influence come out, but we also get in the teaser Blake Monroe coming, which I think is perfect. She's going to absolutely crush in that position, and I think she's going to run riot on SmackDown. Her versus Rhea, I think, would just be the perfect dynamic. Her versus like people like Tiffy I think she's just going to thrive in that role, and I cannot wait for her to debut. Speaking of JCJ and Fatal Influence, so we thought that was it, one and done. They make their debut, but no, what comes at they kind of interrupt Rhea, sorry, when Rhea kind of comes out to do her like victory speech, and then JC Jane goes on just have, and again, as I was saying, what a great performance she has an incredible match with Rhea Ripley, to the point where they're getting "This is awesome" chants, which I just think, like, there's not a lot of, particularly female wrestlers that are fairly unknown outside the NXT bubble, to get that response, because she's come in and they've just shot her to the moon. She's got the look and she's got the team behind her and she's got the move set. Like, yeah, she's gonna, the whole women's division, I think, is on fire, particularly with these additions. It's gonna be, yeah, gonna be something to watch. And we also get a hint at Ricky Saint's debut, which again on SmackDown, he is, however much he probably hates it, or maybe he doesn't, he is a mini Rock. Whatever Edge said, a vanilla midget Rock, or whatever the hell that means. Yeah, so he will do very well on SmackDown, I think, as well. Yeah, it's a shame him and Ethan aren't on the same page, same roster yet, but I think that will happen. But they're both, yeah, ones to watch for the future. So the main event match, we had Jacob Fatu versus Solo, and again, their chemistry, they've had quite a lot of matches. Their chemistry is always great. Their family, they know each other well, which I thought was really well. The interesting part is the Usos kind of are getting themselves involved because they are the lapdogs, and I will keep saying they're the lapdogs. They got involved in a really great match to kind of help Jacob. They tried to get involved to help Jacob, and he was like, "No, I'm not having it." Which then resulted in like Jacob basically taking out all the MFTs by himself. Absolutely clean house, nice table spot. Really, showed his dominance. He was cementing himself as that main event position. So seeing him do that, and then where it's going with the Usos, again, I'm interested enough on this whole storyline, but do I really want to see another bloodline thing? Not really. I would rather see the Usos in tag, like putting on tag team bangers, or Jimmy Uso breaking out and seeing something else, or I don't know, Roman going by himself. He's being the island by himself. Have him do that, going against these other big competitors. I hope that's what happens. Maybe this thing with Jacob finishes, and then Roman versus Oba, Roman versus who else is there? Gunther, Rollins again, new people like Royce Keys, or I know they're on different rosters, but like there's so many different talent there. Roman's going to stick around now, which I hope to God he is. There's so much option for him now. Yeah, if he can do that without the bloodline just there constantly, then I will possibly change my stance on Roman. So we are fully kind of out of that Mania, post-Mania haze now, leading kind of straight into Backlash, which is great, kind of constant moving WWE machine. And we started out this week's Monday Night Raw with, and he's done it a couple of times before, these kind of pre-recorded Roman segments, where he seemed to be holding counsel with the Usos, like they're all sat on the same table. I think they're alluding more to them being more aligned as opposed to Roman just being the top guy. Roman's asking Usos about Jacob's intentions. What does he want? Jimmy biting back, saying, he gets it. He understands he wants to level up. So, let him do that. However, he shouldn't be doing it through the family. Jay's saying he's dangerous, but like, again, it still does feel like they are the lapdogs. It doesn't quite feel equal, and I don't know if it ever will, but we'll see. Straight after that, we had Rollins coming out to kick off the show properly with a promo, blaming Bron Breakker for all the losses he's had recently against Gunther, against losing the World Heavyweight title. And then, he calls out Bron Breakker to kind of deal with this. Bron Breakker comes out, gives it right back to Seth. There's a very kind of nasally Seth Rollins impression, which I thought was very funny. And it was a very, very good back and forth between them, because they both kind of boosted each other up while knocking each other down at the same time. Like, Seth really kind of bigged up Braun about being the next big thing, about how he was vouched for by Shawn Michaels and Triple H and all these other people, but he's not clever enough to have followed. If he'd followed Seth, he could have been a major player. He already is, obviously. Bron Breakker said the same similar thing, saying Seth is all these things that he claims he is. He's the architect and all this stuff, but he's not quite. He's the best at being second best sort of thing, the second best wrestler in the world. Even kind of mentioned CM Punk in his promo back to him and stuff. It was a very good back and forth with Seth kind of stamping it with bringing up Bron's family and the Steiners and everyone else and stuff. So there's so much history in this, although it felt very rushed before with them Bron turning on Seth so quickly. It's kind of coming to a head now. We've got Seth versus Bron at Backlash, which I think will be absolutely phenomenal because Bron Breakker he's obviously the next star. They're pushing him that way. Seth Rollins is the current. I don't know how long Seth's got, but I think he's still got a lot of miles in him. That match will be exceptional. I think it'll be really good. Following Seth's promo, we had a shot of Stephanie Vaquer kind of coming to the building. Like she looked like seriously pissed off. She's about to come out and say something. Before she can, she's attacked immediately by Raquel, Liv, and Roxanne. They really mess her up and really take her out. What I love about this is that this feud is continuing. It really just started with WrestleMania. Those two could have put on with the time they had, they put on a great match, and they are telling a really good story of like this intensity and this hatred. Adding Raquel and Roxanne, everyone else, they just needed that more time. So maybe at Backlash they'll get like a lengthy match, but that's what they need. They need like 20 minutes to show out, and I think they absolutely will. First match of the night is Penta versus Rusev. Ethan Page comes out. I love Ethan Page. He comes out immediately and sits ringside to kind of watch this. There was like a thing last week with him and Rusev and Javon and all these people. Again, Rusev and Penta works. I've not seen Penta have a bad match. I don't know if it's Penta or Rusev or the combination, but they put on they again have great chemistry. I'm glad that they are continuing the IC title stuff. But what we're also getting is Ethan Page and Javon involved as well, because all four of them bring something different. It seems to be like Ethan Page and Rusev, the heels versus the good guys a little bit. But all four bringing something good. I wonder at Backlash if we'll have a fatal four-way type match. I don't know. But all four are bringing something unique to it. And I think it's highlighting the new people, plus giving Rusev a lot. I've always been a big Rusev Day fan. Giving him that exposure again, I think works. And he's so good in the IC title, US title picture. If he could build himself up again, I mean, if they brought back Rusev Day, they could elevate him so much. I don't know why they don't do it. And of merch, if you think business wise, it makes sense, but whatever. They're doing some good stuff at the minute. Following that match, we had Becky Lynch come out to do a promo. She just recites up all her accolades, craps on the crowd in Texas, all the kind of usual heel stuff. But she's very good she's so natural now at doing it, bringing everyone up and dropping them down sort of stuff. Then just out of nowhere, she offers an open challenge. They just seem to love the open challenges at the minute. And it does those sort of things, although they are good, it does make you question their creative and if they're where they're going with stuff. Do they have a plan? An open challenge can be really good, but it also can come across as quite lazy. So yeah, Bex did that. She wanted someone new and someone fresh, and then she gets Io Sky, which I wasn't expecting. And we'll get into Kairi Sane at the end because I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it too much now. Sky comes out. They had, I can't recall many matches between them two. I know they did reference it on the show, but they had an absolute stellar match. They just really hard hitting, both of them, really technical savvy. Timing was great. Getting this awesome chance, everything else. Like it was such a good match. They had good time as well. They had like a lengthy match, and it was unannounced match. Like it was so good. So I'd love to see them do more. I wasn't sure if Asuka was going to be involved still, based on what's happened with Kyrie, but she did. She come out and cost Io the match, and really put her in the Asuka lock and really that savage kind of Asuka seemed to come back, and that was followed up by a promo later on in the night about her, not breaking up the family and all this stuff, but that old. And I think you got this funny kind of Asuka with the whole Kyrie thing, but this intense one is so good, and I think Asuka thrives in that position. So these two at Backlash will have. If it's not match of the night, I'll be surprised. So we had a couple of promos next. We had LA Knight, backstage promo with LA Knight, kind of not confronting the Usos, but making it very clear that he questioned the Usos' position again, but he did it in such a way that bigged them both up. He said about Jay being, and I mentioned it before, Jay being a former champ, Jimmy has all the potential in the world. He bigged them up more than Roman ever has, in my opinion. But then it's when they bring up the whole it's the family thing, which again I'm just so tired of hearing. Um, LA Knight kind of went, well, if Roman's the champ, so if he's in the way, it's a problem for him. And I want LA Knight in that title picture. I still think he should get Money in the Bank, but I think they've moved Money in the Bank to further in the year now. I'd be furious if he never becomes champion, but it's good to see that continuation of that. So they respect LA Knight, but it's family, so there's a problem. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. And then we get, following from that backstage promo, we get the Joe Hendry debut, which he's going to be one to watch. He's just naturally charismatic. Um, does this little song about him being on Raw, immediately calls out Logan Paul, saying about can they fire Logan Paul. The whole segment was fun. So I'm jumping ahead. They do that. Logan Paul and Austin Theory come out and give Joe Hendry some crap. Eventually put the beat down on him. Street Profits come out. They then get the save. Street Profits get a huge pop. They will save the Raw Tag Team division if they're allowed to cook as they usually do. They've been a bit up and down, but they need to be able to do that because that division I think needs saving more so than SmackDown's one. My point was them bringing up the firing thing was so it's very poor taste considering they shouldn't even mention the word firing or fire after all that's just happened. I just think it's so why? There's no need. This is what I mean. I'm really trying to stay positive in this, but this time of year, it got so bad before. Again, I'm deviating, but there's a time when I stopped watching wrestling, and I've always been a lifelong fan. I've always tried to kept up with pay-per-views and everything, but there was times when I've stopped it weekly when they were just seemingly firing everyone, like when the Iconics went before and Bray Wyatt went. It's just anyway. I'm jumping ahead. I'll get to it in a bit. I'll get it in my ranty section. Next match of the night: El Grande Americano, the not Ludwig Kaiser one, versus Rey Mysterio. Again, really fun match. Rey Mysterio I don't know what the hell he's taking. It's insane. He's 51, 52, and he's flying around like he's so smooth with it. I don't understand how he does it. It's absolutely incredible. And then Ludwig is so over as his character. He's switched it. He was supposed to be the bad guy, and he's definitely become the good guy. Chad Gable's getting booed to hell now. OG El Grande's getting booed to hell. To the point where even it seemed like Ludwig didn't want to use the steel plate thing. So they had a great match. Again, really good chemistry. Ludwig wanted to do it to kind of honor Rey Mysterio, but then the whole steel plate thing in the mask came, and it didn't seem like they were going to use it. OG El Grande comes and takes it off him, costs the other one, I'm just going to call him Ludwig, cost Ludwig the match. These two really have an intense kind of beat down and fight afterwards, and that's leading up to their mask versus mask match at AAA. It doesn't make sense to have it there, obviously. I thought they would have built it to Mania. I think the pop would have been as big, but it makes sense to have it there. But it's all very confusing. Again, as I mentioned before, the fans are cheering the Ludwig El Grande and not Chad Gable one, and it feels like it's backwards here. But in this instance, I guess he's done such good work. He's managed to shift the balance, which that organic change I think is brilliant. What they then do after, I presume the plan was always to get the mask off Ludwig, but would make sense now to get it off Chad, in their mask versus mask match. So that will be one to watch, I think, just to see how that plays out. Next up, we get Obafemi, the ruler, the conqueror, versus Grayson Waller, stuck his foot in it and wanted a match. Again, it was just going to be a squash match. That was always going to be the way. Grayson Waller is looking phenomenal though, and again, I don't understand why he's so charismatic and like a natural heel, and he can be very funny. I wish they would give him. I'm guessing his New Day thing is now done. That whole whatever that was. Anyway, Oba squashes him in seconds, and then he opens up like an Obafemi open challenge. And again, as I said before, the open challenge thing it does feel lazy sometimes. Why is he doing that after fighting? He retired Brock Lesnar. So why the hell is he doing that? Why is he not doing something else? Is it because they make reference to it? The title picture's so cluttered. I get it, but in a way, I think him going straight for Roman would be amazing. But then where does he go from that? I don't know. It's just I don't want to have him doing this until SummerSlam or till whenever. SummerSlam's still 4 months away. I want him. He needs to be something meaningful, not just these open challenges where he crushes everyone, because it's just not going to work. Because that's the bar he set for himself. I don't want him to be someone who squashes everyone and doesn't have any offense, because he can have lengthy matches as we've seen in NXT. But yeah, it's such an odd choice. It just feels like they haven't got a follow up when there are so many people you could go after. Like Gunter isn't doing anything right now. That story for me can go a few months. Both big guys, they both have retired key people. Why is that not the next thing? Maybe that's what will happen, but why? Maybe Gunter comes out and said, no, I wanted to be the one to retire him, and whatever. It's an easy story to tell there. So like, I think that would make sense. Final match of the night was Finn. Sorry, not Finn. It was the Roxanne and Raquel Judgment Day versus Bailey and Lyra. But before that, sorry, Finn. Liv kind of made a point around Finn and how she was close to Finn, and Finn brought her in. Like, is there going to be a problem there? Roxanne saying no, although she hesitated a bit and had some time. Finn's getting in her ear about, be careful, because the Judgment Day have a history of screwing people over. So again, there's another layer of that dynamic there. Particularly with Stephanie and all the rest of it. So this is going to be good. Again, the match was good. Roxanne got a big hometown pop in Texas, in that particular town. I think she was born or grew up there. Match was great. I guess it's like a number one contender match. I don't know if that was an official thing, but Judgment Day got the win. Roxanne got the pin. And yeah, so they'll go on to kind of have some tag team matches. And again, it makes sense. All three of the women have really good chemistry together. The one thing, the fallout from that, in my opinion, is again Bailey. Like, she's just floating around again. Like, I've been a Bailey fan since NXT, since the Hugger days. She's just floating again. Nothing substantial for her. The tag team thing was great. I thought it was going to disappear post Mania. Maybe that's what happened. She had that angle where she was this kind of like split personality thing that didn't amount to anything. Like, it's just very odd what they're doing with her, and considering how prominent and how old school and how vital she is to the women's division. Like, it frustrates me to not see her be getting more, because I think she should. Final segment of the night was Roman and Jacob. Roman comes out to see if he's going to say yes to Jacob's match proposal, Backlash. Jacob comes out quite quickly after Roman does his kind of initial spiel, saying he was left behind. He had to grind himself. He had to claw his way back up while all these guys were sat in WWE living it up. That's why he wants to get to where he's where he needs to be now, and he did it by himself. No one picked him up. These guys didn't help him when they could have, so he's going to get it for himself. And again, it makes perfect sense. Screw those guys. You say you're off with family, but you didn't help me when I needed you. So, to hell with you. And then Roman, and like even Jacob mentioned Solo being the only one to kind of pick him up. And then Roman goes, oh, I gave permission. I gave permission for you to return. It was all down to me, which makes Jacob snap. And he gives Roman this kind of like Samoan death grip thing, and like takes him out. And again, the fans boo it. They boo Jacob. Like, they've been they've been loving this guy for years, and he's finally in his position. Now they're booing him because of what, Roman, and it just doesn't. I don't know, and it's clearly a bias, but I don't understand this sheer unadulterated love for Roman compared to other people. Do we really want to be in a Roman chokehold again? Like, do people not remember how awful it was? I don't think it will be that way, but to then boo Jacob, who has grinded and worked his ass off to get to where he is and really built up through Drew McIntyre and Solo and all the other stuff. Like, it doesn't make sense for me. I don't think Jacob will win out of Backlash. It's too soon for Roman to drop it. But I don't know. It's going straight back into a kind of bloodliney type feud. It's just not quite working for me at the minute. I mean, overall, the Raw was good. Again, we're progressing stuff to Backlash. Again, it's hard in this in between bit to kind of, because as well as they seem to have put Backlash as this kind of WrestleMania post tour show thing where they kind of finish up feuds, and it's like, for me anyway, it should be finished at WrestleMania and then we start again. And that is happening with some people, but there is a lot of hangover and a lot of fall over through onto Backlash and everything else. So yeah, the show did what it needed to. There's a lot of moving parts going on still. But yeah, it's just unfortunate at the minute with the bloodline stuff. It's just, I don't know, not quite feeling as much as I was hoping I would, but I could be wrong. So let's talk about the elephant in the room with all the recent releases. It's such a horrible time of year, and it comes around. It feels like it comes around so often. I try and look at it. I mentioned before, it puts you off, particularly when the decisions don't seem to make sense. I look at it from the business side and all that, whatever. I don't know if it's TKO or Triple H. Obviously, I have no idea. People can speculate what they want. I don't know. I understand from business side, but at the same time, they're saying it's record breaking, you know, gates and all this money they're getting and stuff. So which one is it? Um, but to get rid of, and I understand some of the other people they got rid of, like, and no disrespect to like Apollo Crews and some of the NXT talent, they have just been there a lot of the time. But to get rid of Kairi Sane, who is in the middle of a very good storyline, and I said this before, one of the top storylines going at the minute was, it doesn't make any sense. The kind of pop and the payoff they would have got when Kairi eventually turns on Asuka would have been huge. And like she was getting that already, she was getting that momentum build, and the fact that they're still carrying on this feud between Asuka and Io without her doesn't make it adds to it more because what? Why did you? Why? Unless there's something else happening where she asked to go or hinted at leaving soon or something, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to take her out now and then continue the storyline. Like I never felt Kyrie had a proper solid run in WWE on her own. Like she's part of this with Asuka and stuff, but this could have been something really big for her, even if just the moment itself. But no, it just took away. It just doesn't make any sense. And then you had Alistair Black and Zelina Vega. Alistair Black's been here, what, a year or two? I don't even know how long it is, barely a minute. He was positioned, if you read all the rumors and stuff, to be in the main event spot in place of Pat. Like he's obviously high on people's radar, but then they get rid of him. When again, he barely made any stride. He could have. He'd been put into this carrying cross position for some reason. He could have had somewhere, but he didn't. And he's insanely talented. He could easily be a believable world heavyweight champion. He's gone. Zelina Vega's gone. Um, a big one for me because I'm such a big Bray Wyatt fan. The Wyatts have gone. All of them. like what? Like what? You try not to take it personal, but I feel there's huge disrespect to Bray Wyatt. They brought this team in. They had this phenomenal debut. Their debut when they all came back was incredible. It was huge. The numbers it got was massive. And yes, there were some injuries and other stuff. And yes, Uncle Howdy's mask looks a bit silly. And I think they could have sped up. I don't think they learned the mistakes they did from Bray with how long they let things sit before they built up some way. Like Bray with all these kind of nonsensical promos and things. And sometimes it didn't feel like they were getting any movement. But then push that. You could have this huge feud with merch. And it's, the thing I don't get is they don't. It seems like I'd love to know the insides of it. How many writers they have per, superstars? Do they have a selection they look after? I don't know, but it infuriates me. And again, the legacy it does to Bray, in my opinion, because Bray's going to go in the Hall of Fame one day. Like, what's going to happen then? It's just not ridiculously awkward. I don't know. I just and a few others I can think of. Motor City Machine Guns again, absolute waste and tag team talent there. You gave them everything on their debut and then you took it away. Santos Escobar, I was really high on him as a kind of lucha wrestler. He was really really fun to watch. Zoe Stark, who's been injured. And again, with the right character, she could have done really well, but she's now gone. And then there's a number of other people. But yeah, it's really when I saw what happened, I was just like, for God's sake, like I know it happens, but yeah, it's never easy. And I know you can go on to have a prosperous indie career, and like there's so many examples of that happening. But it annoys me more in that you've got all this talent here, and I see it with current superstars like Austin Theory and other people. You do, and Grayson Waller as an example, the New Day, all that. You've got all this great stuff here, and you've got these great stories, and then you just nothing comes of it. And I don't like you can't get away with that in any other kind of scripted environment besides WWE. I find they just seem to forget about everything, or they just drop the ball. And I'm just like, sometimes you've got so many layups, and you just somehow fumble it. I remember the whole Otis and Chad Gable thing a couple of years back, where they were building up Otis to turn on Chad, and the whole thing just dissolved into nothing. And it was just like, if you've got them in the palm of your hands and you can have that pop, then have it, and it lives forever. But they They just don't capitalize on it sometimes, because they've shown when they do, things are awesome. So I just don't understand it. And yeah, so all my best to the people that have been let go. I'm sure they will dominate. One thing I will say, and my slightly controversial thing, is I also get frustrated, and the last thing I say about it, otherwise I'll go on for ages, is you keep people like R-Truth, and yes, he was released recently, but I'm using an example because he's 50 something. He's a tag team champion, and I love Truth, and everyone loves Truth. He's a tag champ, but you're getting rid of Aleister Black or Kairi Sane or these other people. And like, I'm sure Truth's probably earning a lot more as well. Like, it doesn't make sense. There's so many older wrestlers, and you've got kind of mid to young talent there. Like, it just, yeah, it's really difficult to. That's what I mean. The positive side of it in the wrestling world is something I wanted to focus on, and I will continue to focus on, and I will find as much as I can. But yeah, in these instances, it's pretty tough. So yeah, as we do, we roll on and we go on to next week, and we find more positive things to think about. There's far too much negative crap in the world going on, so I'm going to keep this a positive beacon, you know, except for all that stuff. And I will leave that as a space each week to kind of vent about stuff and try and give it 5 minutes, because it's far too easy to go on and be like these other people that just rip it to shreds, because what's the point? Anyway, those are the review. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Until next time.